Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Lifelong Learners. Last week, I had talked about how I was coping since Nancy, my therapist of 18 years, retired. This week, I want to talk about what mealtimes were like for me growing up. To find more episodes of Lifelong Learners, you can go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. Also, you can go to YouTube and look up Lifelong Learners. Make sure you like, comment, and share my podcast. Also, subscribe to my channel at Lifelong Learners Podcast. Who's ready to learn about mealtimes from my own lived experiences? Your host, Holly Tetreault. Mealtimes growing up were stressful because I had to listen to my sister and brother argue with each other. Sometimes I would wait until everyone is done eating before I had dinner. It was rare for me to eat dinner with my family because it would cause me too much stress. Living under the same roof as my sister was hard. She made mealtimes stressful because she would always be in a bad mood. I had to pick and choose my battles with my sister. There were days where I went to bed hungry because my sister made it hard for me to eat dinner. The stress would make me lose my appetite. Sometimes I would hide in my bedroom and avoid my sister altogether. Mealtimes weren't stressful until we had to move to Turner's in November of 2009. Having to adjust to a new routine was hard, but I was also dealing with my sister saying rude things about me. Her nasty attitude carried over into dinner time, and it was hard for me to be around her. I was still living with Mom, and there were days where I decided not to eat dinner until 8:30 at night because I couldn't stand trying to eat dinner and listen to my sister being rude to me at the same time. I found it hard as a child to mask how much I didn't like certain foods and textures. When my sister was in the same room as me, while I would be talking to Mom about meal options everyone would eat, my sister would start judging me and asking me why I didn't like certain foods. Our relationship is so far gone. I still remember the day when Mom and Tyler had to go do something. My sister took this as the right opportunity to force me to eat cucumbers, which I still don't like to this very day. She also forced me to eat ranch dressing, and this is another food that I avoid eating. Autistic people are sensitive to certain textures, smells, and the big thing for me was my sister playing her music really loud during dinner, which bothered me. I was always being criticized by my sister for being a picky eater. Her criticism was so mean that I didn't come down to eat dinner. Most nights, Mom was coming up to my bedroom trying to convince me to have dinner. Some nights, she was able to get me out of my room. Other nights, I just avoided the situation altogether. It wasn't worth having to be around someone who is always being mean to you. I had to mask how sensitive I was to sound, not just at school, but also at home. I would wear headphones when we have dinner to block out some of the noise. Even going to a busy restaurant, I have to wear headphones because the noise of everything in the background is too much. Before I got diagnosed with autism, I knew that I didn't like cereal. I also don't like pickles because they're too slimy and wet. Living in a 3-bedroom apartment with my sister for 15 years was hard. She doesn't understand what autism is, and she doesn't care to understand. She made dinner time a living nightmare. She would ask me constantly, "Why can't you eat the same food as the rest of us?" My sister got angry because Mom was having to buy separate meals for dinner. I never said this out loud to my sister, but I always wonder, why is it any of your concern? My sister was very nosy, and she still is to this very day, even though I don't live with Mom anymore. As I got older, my sister became so mean and rude that there were days where I didn't want to come home from school. Having to mask my true self was exhausting, and I would come home from school almost every day having panic attacks. If that wasn't hard enough, I couldn't even sit down and eat dinner at night because I couldn't stand being around my sister. Even when I would try to tell her that her music was too loud, she would refuse to turn it down while we were eating dinner. Every part of my life growing up was stressful. I can't remember a time during my childhood where I felt stress-free and not on edge all the time. I had certain food preferences growing up. I always enjoyed chicken nuggets and fries, pizza, pasta, Swiss cheese, and ice cream. This was my list of safe foods growing up. Now that I'm living on my own, I am finding that I am not forced to try new foods. I can try new foods if I want to. CJ is the chef who cooks the meals at Elm Terrace and Morgan Allen. He always tells me if I don't like something, then I don't have to eat it. His personality is so nice, caring, and he is funny. Compared to how my sister judged me for my picky eating as a child, living on my own and being around people who accept me for who I am has helped me to boost my confidence. Most times, I have a hard time sensing when I'm hungry. Interoception means the ability to feel internal body signals like hunger. I always struggled with this, and when I'm stressed out, it's harder for me to stop and ask myself, am I hungry? The constant masking also interfered with my internal body signals. Masking took a lot of energy out of me, and then I would be tired. It would also be harder to figure out what my body needed in the moment. Mom had to start asking me, are you hungry or are you tired? I couldn't even begin to explain how hard it was to take care of myself growing up. It was easier for me to eat dinner on the couch away from my sister. Even trying to make myself dinner was hard because my sister would always be in the kitchen at the same time as me, and I would always have to wait until she was done so I could make dinner. It was this never-ending battle with her until I moved out of Mom's place almost 3 years ago. My sensory sensitivities were worse when I was living with Mom, and I had to deal with a sibling who didn't care that I was autistic. And during this time, the doctors and neurologists were trying to get my seizures under control. I didn't ask to have epilepsy or to be autistic, but Mom and I were trying our best to make sure that I would still be alive each and every day. Sometimes I do blame my sister for all the added stress I was under at home. Also, she should have stepped up as an older sister and made sure that I was getting enough to eat. It shouldn't have all fallen on Mom's shoulders to take care of everyone. My sister should have been more understanding of my food preferences and why I only eat certain foods. I shouldn't have to constantly explain why I can't eat certain foods. My sister has missed out on many things in my life because she ruined our relationship years ago. I can't continue listening to people who pick on me every day and don't accept me for who I am. If she is still jealous because I got more attention from Mom all these years, then too bad. I was having seizures. I had constant hospital stays and many doctor's appointments growing up so we could get these seizures under control. That's all for this week's episode of Lifelong Learners. Today I talked about mealtimes growing up. Next week I want to talk more about autism and disability rights in our ever-changing world. For more episodes of Lifelong Learners, you can go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to look up Lifelong Learners on YouTube. Also, subscribe to my channel at Lifelong Learners Podcast. Like, comment, and sharing my podcast helps me to get my autism story out there. I want to thank Alex, GCC, and all of my fans for helping me get my autism story out there. See you next week. Holly Tetreault.